Homebuyer 101. Who are all the people you should expect to work with when you're buying a house? So welcome to the channel. If you're new, I am a mortgage lender licensed in 48 states. Okay, so you're buying a house. Well, we all know you're likely going to be using a real estate agent. Now, you're not required to, however, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be using a real estate agent. Sometimes people might be buying from family and then they're not doing that, or in certain states we'll see someone use an attorney, but most of the time you're going to have a real estate agent. Okay, who else? Well, if you need money, you got to have one of me. Yep, you're going to need a mortgage lender. And with a mortgage lender comes more people, okay? So as part of the mortgage process, you're going to be dealing with your mortgage loan officer, which is what I am. And then often they'll have an assistant. So like I have licensed assistants. Licensed means that they can pull rates for you as well and that they've been trained as a mortgage loan officer. So if I'm on the phone, I have someone incredibly capable helping you. Well, who else? Well, there's a loan processor. Yep, there's a loan processor. So it's the loan processor's job to get all your documents and they prepare them to go to the underwriter, which is another person, okay? Now, who are you gonna be interacting with? So you'll interact with your real estate agent. If your real estate agent has an assistant, you'll be interacting with them as well. On the mortgage front, you'll be interacting with the loan officer, if there's a loan officer assistant, and processors, okay? Any mortgage processor, generally you'll be interacting with them. What I have found about processors, and I'm gonna do separate videos on each of these categories, they like email. They're not usually chatty Cathys. So don't be offended if you're like, oh, you know, the loan officer will talk to me for weeks, but darn, those processors just like to email. Generally, processors are introverts. Now, as a buyer, would you be talking to the underwriter? No, nope. Underwriters are like behind castle walls, okay? It would be highly unusual for you to ever talk to an underwriter. There's supposed to be a separation between you and them because they're basically looking at your file and they're the decision maker. So you've got an underwriter and then, you know, a funder. Do you talk to the funder? No. So on the loan front, loan officer, loan assistant, processor. Those are your keys. Okay, who else? Well, there's gonna be a title company. So it's the title company's job to make sure that the seller can legally sell you the house. Now, I would argue that people really don't do enough investigation into what title companies do. And I would recommend as a first-time home buyer that you do some research, right? Because a big part of your closing costs is title, as well as title insurance. So you want to make sure that you're looking up what title insurance is and how it protects you. Personally, I like Investopedia a lot right now for all those definitions, but when you actually are in contract, meaning the seller's accepted your offer and you're working with a title company, talk to them, ask them questions. Most of them are lovely and it's their job to tell you what they do. Okay. Now, depending on state, you're gonna have one of two people. You're either gonna have an escrow officer or an attorney. Now, there's some states where the attorneys like run the show. There's one state where the attorney, one and a half. So the state where attorneys are like running the show, it's New York. New York, there are 3 attorneys when you are buying a house. Yeah, the seller has one, the lender has one. Yep, in New York, we have to have an attorney too. And you have one, okay? There's other states where there may be an attorney, like the Carolinas, but it's different than New York. It's still your real estate agent that's doing the bulk of the negotiation. Illinois is another one where depending on where you are in the state, the attorneys can be very present or not at all, okay? Now, it's their job to make sure that everyone's following the rules of the contract, whether it's the escrow officer or the attorneys, you know, they're making sure that everyone's following the contract. Not a huge cost difference between the two. You know, if I'm thinking about all the different states I work in, the only state where I'm like, yeah, this is more expensive, these attorneys are more expensive than escrow officers, is New York. Everywhere else, it's like they basically do the same thing. It's just one's a licensed attorney. So, you know, are you getting some legal eagle. Generally, no. I mean, it's their job to make sure the basic paperwork is correct, to make sure that there's no huge red flags. But if you're picturing an LA law, I'm old, look it up, type scenario, it's not the way it is. New York, you'll see that sometimes, but generally it's pretty paper pushery, okay? Who else? The appraiser. Are you guys gonna be there for the appraisal? Not usually, no, that'd be super weird. I know. And you're like, well, I wanna be at the appraisal. Generally, buyers are not at the appraisal. I don't even think the seller should be there. Generally, an appraiser is going to do their best work if a real estate agent lets them in and leaves them alone and asks them, you know, is there to answer any questions, but overall is hands off. Inspections, yeah, you should be there. I think you should be there. If you're a buyer, if I'm buying, I'm totally going to the inspection. So based on what type of loan you're doing or how many inspections you're doing, you're gonna have inspectors that you're interacting with as well. So yes, I do think you should go to the inspection. I think on new home construction, you should have an inspection. Yes, I do. I think you should have one, you know, before closing, and I think you should have one before that warranty is up. So those are the main players when you're buying a house. And it's a lot of people. It's one of the reasons I try to fully underwrite every single buyer up front. It's because if I can have my team do the bulk of all of our work before you're even in contract, then when you're in contract, you're dealing with all these other people. You know, we pop in and are like, yeah, we need insurance. Oh, you're gonna need an insurance person too. But overall, you know, that's a big reason I do that, because there's a lot of people at play, and as a buyer, it can be very overwhelming. So I just wanted to do a quick video of what you should expect in terms of how many people you're gonna be dealing with and what their jobs are, and I'll be doing some more in-depth videos on what each person in the loan process does. Thanks for watching. Oh, questions or comments? Guys, if you have questions about buying a house, get on the calendar or text me. I say this all the time. I mean it. I literally have Sandy and Alyssa, who I hired. Their entire job is answering your questions. There are 60 slots a week just for that. Fill them up. Fill them up, guys. Ask them everything. We don't charge for that. It's a service that I give to you guys because I know how scary it is buying a house. It still scares me. Thanks for watching.